Imagine standing in the middle of a loud, crowded party. People are laughing, music is playing, but you can't feel any of it. It's as if there is a thick, bulletproof glass wall separating you from the rest of humanity. You can see them, but you cannot reach them. You felt this your entire life. You've been called too quiet, too intense, or even arrogant. But they don't know the truth. They don't know that small talk literally drains your life force. They don't know that your brain is processing so much invisible data in that room that you are silently suffocating. So, you retreat. You build a fortress. You become the observer. Here is my personal truth after studying numerology for years. Your isolation is not a psychological defect. If you resonate with this, you are likely carrying the cosmic frequency of Life Path 7. Listen to me carefully. The universe intentionally built that glass wall around you. Why? Because if you were easily distracted by the noise of the crowd, you would never dive into the deep, dark abyss to find the truth. Your loneliness is not a curse. It is the necessary quarantine for your genius. In today's podcast episode, we are tearing apart the psychology of Life Path 7. We are going to expose why you secretly feel like an alien and exactly how you must transition from being a bitter, lonely hermit into what I call the lighthouse. The world doesn't need you to blend in. It needs you to shine in the dark. Before we dive deep, if you want to know if you carry this 7 energy or discover what your true cosmic blueprint is, click the link in the description right now for a free numerology reading. Are you ready to break the glass wall? Let's get into the episode.
I want you to imagine, just for a second, that you're standing in the middle of a really crowded room.
Right, like a busy party or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
The music is loud, people are laughing, glasses are clinking, and, to anyone looking at you, you look like you fit perfectly in.
You're playing the part.
Right, you're smiling, nodding at all the right times, but internally, you feel like you're, a million miles away from everyone else.
Oh yeah, that distinct feeling.
It's like this almost physical sensation of a glass wall separating you from the rest of the room. Like you can see them, you can hear them, but you just can't quite reach them.
It's a really profound, deeply isolating feeling. And most people who experience that glass wall, they spend their whole lives trying to break it down.
Because they think something's wrong with them.
Exactly. They assume it's some kind of psychological defect. But when we look at ancient storytelling traditions, specifically the framework of numerology, this sensation isn't seen as a flaw at all.
It's actually a feature, right?
Yes. It is the primary psychological wound, but also the ultimate power of this very specific narrative archetype, the Life Path 7.
So in this deep dive, we're going to completely unpack this. Because I think we need to reframe that painful feeling of being the misunderstood outsider.
We want to reframe it into the vantage point of a mystic.
Exactly. But really quickly, before we get into the psychology of it, let's just clarify the mechanics of this framework for anyone who isn't familiar.
Good idea.
So finding a life path number is basically just reducing a birth date down to a single digit. You take the month, the day, the full year of birth, and you add every single number together.
Until you get a multi-digit sum.
Right. And then you add those digits together until you hit a single number between 1 and 9. So I don't know, say someone is born July 24th, 1983.
Okay, so that's a 7 plus 2 plus 4 plus 1 plus 9 plus 8 plus 3.
Which is 34. And then 3 plus 4 equals 7.
Boom! Which drops that person right into the incredibly complex narrative of the 7.
And it really is a narrative, isn't it? It's a lens to view human behavior. And this story almost always starts in childhood.
Always. It is rooted in this really profound sense of alienation from day one.
I think the best analogy I've heard is that being a 7 child is like being a traveler dropped behind enemy lines without a map.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right. Picture a school playground while all the other kids are instinctively running around, playing tag, jumping in the sandbox without even thinking about it.
The 7 is usually off to the side.
Yeah, somewhere on the periphery, just watching.
But the crucial distinction here, and this is so important, is that the child isn't necessarily lonely in that moment.
Wait, really? Because it looks lonely from the outside?
It does. But internally, they're studying. They're trying to decipher the rules of this weird social game that everyone else apparently just came pre-installed with.
Oh, wow. So they're analyzing the mechanics of human interaction.
Exactly. They're observing cause and effect way before they even have the vocabulary to know that's what they're doing. It's observation as a primary defense mechanism.
But because they're always behind that glass wall, watching from the sidelines, they don't participate as much.
Right. And that's when the labels start.
Yeah, peers and adults start calling them aloof or weird or, just overly serious.
And this is the tragedy of this early chapter. This leads to the internalized lie that becomes the biggest obstacle a 7 will ever face.
They start believing they're broken.
Yes, they start to believe that their inability to just naturally enjoy trivial small talk is a literal personality defect.
Or like their need to escape loud rooms is a weakness.
Totally. They spend years, sometimes decades, trying to fix a machine that isn't broken. It's just designed for a completely different purpose. They aren't separated because they're defective.
They're separated because their biological role is to be the observer.
Precisely.
Okay, but let's unpack this for a second because I need to challenge this premise.
Go for it.
If we're framing the 7 as this ultimate observer-like, someone who is super analytical, needs data, studies mechanics, how does that fit with the whole mystic or spiritual seeker thing?
It seems contradictory, right?
Yeah. I mean, when I hear mystic, I usually think of someone who's maybe blindly spiritual. But this archetype seems way too rational for that. Those worlds don't mix.
And that tension you're pointing out, that is the defining paradox of the 7. It's the engine for their entire life.
Really?
Yeah. People assume that to be spiritual, you have to throw out logic, or to be scientific, you have to reject anything intangible.
Right. They're usually camps you have to choose between.
Exactly. But in this ancient framework, the number 7 literally represents the bridge where those two forces collide. It's the meeting point.
Okay, so it's bringing them together.
Yes. Earth is traditionally represented by the number 4, and spirit is represented by the number 3. 4 plus 3 is 7. They are the alchemists bridging the two.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
So a 7 actually has this razor-sharp, skeptical mind.
Very sharp. They do not accept dogma. They won't just take things on blind faith.
They need the proof, the data, the why behind the what.
Which is why, funny enough, a 7 will often spend a huge chunk of their life identifying as a strict materialist.
Oh, like an atheist or a hardcore agnostic?
Exactly. They try to dissect the universe with a scalpel. They want to solve the whole massive equation of life using nothing but pure logic.
But I'm guessing logic eventually hits a wall.
A massive wall. Because, as an expert observer, the 7 inevitably starts noticing variables that science just can't fully explain.
Oh, right, like undeniable synchronicities. Or those gut feelings that end up being terrifyingly accurate.
Right. The math just stops mathing.
So what happens to them then? That has to be frustrating.
It creates immense cognitive dissonance. It's like a constant buzzing in their skull. Because the purely religious person is comfortable in blind faith.
And the purely scientific person is totally comfortable in cold data.
But the 7 is comfortable in neither, because they see the glaring flaws in both extremes.
They want a unified theory.
Exactly. And eventually they realize their skepticism isn't the enemy of their intuition, it's actually the refining fire.
Oh, I like that. It burns off this superstition and leaves just the raw truth.
Yes. And when a mind is constantly running at that level, scanning for truth, looking for inconsistencies, it totally changes how they interact with the physical world.
Which perfectly explains the infamous disappearance acts of the 7.
The vanishing.
Yeah. We'd have to talk about this.
Yeah.
Because the 7 will be super engaged, maybe in a relationship or a friendship, and then suddenly, poof, they're gone.
They ghost everyone.
Right. They stop texting back, they lock their doors, they literally sit in the dark. And to the people who love them, this looks really bad.
It looks like clinical depression, or like a really sudden rejection.
But it's not emotional rejection at all. If you look at the physiology of it, socializing isn't just talking for a 7. It is a massive energetic transaction.
Huge. Because they developed that hyper-vigilant observation in childhood, their brains are processing so much more data in a standard conversation than an average person.
They're picking up on everything, aren't they?
Everything. Unspoken emotions, hidden agendas, tiny shifts in vocal tone, micro-expressions.
So by the end of a dinner party, a 7 isn't just tired. They are energetically bankrupt.
They're contaminated with everyone else's psychic noise, so when they retreat to their cave, they aren't hiding out of fear, they're washing it off.
Like going into a sensory deprivation chamber.
Exactly. Silence isn't a luxury for them, it is literal oxygen.
But wait, isn't there a danger there? Like, couldn't making that cave too comfortable turn it into a trap?
Oh, it's a huge danger. It's the biggest trap for a 7.
Because an intellectual library can easily turn into a prison.
Right. It's the line between empowering solitude, which restores the nervous system, and destructive isolation.
And isolation starves it.
Exactly. When a 7 stays in the cave for too long, their brilliant analysis actually begins to curdle.
Oh, wow. Curdle how?
Well, with no new data from the outside world to process, the mind just turns in on itself. That analysis mutates into paranoia and this really bitter cynicism.
So they have to respect the rhythm. You know, gathering experience in the chaotic world and then retreating to process it.
Yes. And if they refuse to re-enter the world, society loses out on their absolute superpower.
The X-ray gaze.
The X-ray gaze. We've all seen this happen, right?
Oh, totally. A 7 will meet someone, shake their hand, and instantly feel just physically repulsed.
Meanwhile, everyone else in the room is like, oh, they're so charming, so charismatic.
Yeah, but the 7 knows, they just know deeply that the person is a fraud. And then 6 months later, boom, the truth comes out. The person steals money or betrays the group.
And the 7 didn't guess. They knew on day 1.
People always call this a sensitivity to the vibration of truth, which sounds so esoteric.
Yeah, it does, but let's ground it. What the 7 is actually experiencing is hyper-tuned subconscious pattern recognition.
Okay, break that down.
When someone is lying, their conscious words don't perfectly match their subconscious body language. There's a micro delay in a smile or an artificial pitch in their voice.
And most people totally miss those.
Right. But the 7's brain catches all of them instantly. And it registers as a severe error code. It physically feels bad.
Like a screeching violin in the middle of a symphony.
Exactly. But the tragedy is how often the 7 ignores their own alarm bells.
Why do they ignore it if it's so accurate?
Because society has told them their whole lives that they're too critical, too negative, so they override their own gut to be polite.
They give the manipulator a chance.
And inevitably, the betrayal happens exactly the way their nervous system predicted it would.
Which leads to them building massive defensive walls, right? Not because they hate people, but because constantly being right about deceit is just so exhausting.
The cognitive load is brutal. The lesson they have to learn is that their intuition isn't a polite suggestion. It's a biological command.
Okay, so they build this massive intellectual fortress of logic and control to stay safe.
Yeah.
But every great story needs a climax. What happens when that fortress completely collapses? Because it always does.
Oh, it has to. In tarot, this is perfectly symbolized by the Tower card, the midlife crisis of the 7.
Here's where it gets really interesting for you listening. Think of the 7's mind as this huge architectural structure made entirely of empirical data and ego.
Right. It's all based on knowing the answers and being in control.
But then, an uncontrollable variable hits. A failure in the material world.
Like a sudden health crisis, or a devastating divorce, or a massive career burnout.
And suddenly the central load-bearing pillar is just gone. The logic fails. The data cannot fix it.
And the collapse is terrifying, because if your entire identity is tied to knowing things, and suddenly you know absolutely nothing.
You panic. You scramble to pick up the bricks to rebuild the same walls.
But the universe forced this dark night of the soul for a reason. The foundation was faulty. It was built on ego.
The universe literally breaks the shell so the bird can be born. The 7 has to lose their mind to find their soul.
Exactly. They have to stop analyzing the world and start exploring the abstract. And when they emerge from the rubble, they enter this new phase.
The seeker.
Yes, the seeker. This is when the hunger for hidden knowledge kicks into overdrive.
The classic 2 a.m. rabbit holes. Suddenly they're reading about quantum physics, ancient civilizations, metaphysics.
They're looking for the golden thread that connects it all. And they use their ultimate skill, pattern recognition.
Right. Where normal people just see random noise, the 7 sees the underlying grid, like connecting the geometry of a blooming flower to the spiral of a galaxy.
They aren't just memorizing facts anymore. They're synthesizing truths.
But this synthesis creates a really specific social friction. I call it the Cassandra complex.
Oh, from Greek mythology.
Yeah. Cassandra had the gift of prophecy, but the curse was that no one would ever believe her warnings. And that is exactly what happens to the 7.
They see the patterns perfectly. They predict an economic bubble bursting or a toxic relationship dynamic playing out.
They lay out the map for everyone.
And everyone calls them crazy. or a pessimist, because people would way rather have comfortable illusions than difficult truths.
It's such a heavy burden, having the map but realizing no one around you is ready to look at it yet.
So their job isn't to force people to look. Their job is to quietly curate the library, just connecting the dots until the world gets confused enough to actually ask for directions.
Which brings us to the most vulnerable part of the Seven's life, intimacy.
Oh boy.
If their mind is a fortress, their heart is locked in the deepest vault.
It really is. They desperately crave a deep, soulmate-level connection, someone who can handle their depths and just sit with them in silence.
But they are absolutely terrified of vulnerability.
Because vulnerability is an unpredictable variable. It requires exposing all the messy, chaotic emotions they hide behind that polished armor.
And love is illogical, which threatens their need for control. So what do? They become the Ice Queen, or the Stoic King.
Right. They put love on a cold operating table and dissect it.
Yes. They analyze text response times, they decipher tone, they basically treat affection like a manipulation tactic until proven otherwise.
They create invisible tests for their partners, but by overanalyzing the romance, they cut off its oxygen.
They literally kill it on the operating table before it can hurt them.
Exactly. And this means they usually attract one of two types of partners.
The projects.
Yes, the projects. Someone broken or chaotic that the Seven can fix and manage. It keeps them emotionally safe because they're in power.
Or they attract the emotionally unavailable mirror, someone just as walled off as they are.
And neither of those give them the actual intimacy they crave. For a Seven to really love, they have to accept that love is a mystery to be experienced, not a puzzle to be solved.
They have to lower the drawbridge.
Even if it means enemies might get in, because keeping it up means allies can never reach them. They need a partner who is independent enough to let them have their cave.
But brave enough to drag them out of it when it turns into isolation. But, okay, let's talk about the dark side. Because sometimes the answers don't come. The noise of the world gets too loud, and the heartbreak is too heavy. What happens then?
This is the darkest shade of the mystic, the shadow of escapism.
Because they just want to turn the volume of the universe down.
Right. The cognitive burden is unbearable, so they look for an exit. They want to numb the receiver.
And this can look like reading fantasy novels for 12 hours straight, or obsessive video gaming, just living in fabricated worlds.
Or it goes darker into substance abuse, alcohol, numbing behaviors. And they don't do it to party. They do it to forcefully silence their own mind.
They just need a break from the data processing.
But using artificial means to shut down lowers their vibration. It turns them into this cynical, evil genius. A Seven in this shadow state is destructive.
So what's the cure?
The only cure is replacing the artificial high with a spiritual high. If the brain is overheating, you need a cooling system that won't destroy the vessel.
Like intense breath work, somatic therapy, extended time in nature, things that quiet the mind sustainably.
Exactly. And when they finally master this, when they rebuild after the Vigo collapse and conquer the escapism.
That's the resolution, integration.
Integration, they finally come online. They stop choosing between science and spirit.
Because they realize they're just the same language spoken in different dialects?
Yes. The Seven becomes the ultimate translator. They take all that dense data, that pearl from the bottom of the ocean, and they bring it up to share with the world in practical language.
They are no longer just an outsider. They are a lighthouse.
I love that metaphor. Think about a lighthouse. By definition, it has to be isolated.
It's never in the middle of town.
Right. It stands alone out on the jagged rocks and during the storms. Its isolation isn't a punishment. It's a structural requirement.
If the lighthouse was down in the valley partying with the town, the ships would crash. It wouldn't serve its purpose.
The isolation the Seven felt in childhood, it was necessary. The skepticism, necessary. The collapse of their ego, necessary.
All that heat and pressure was just forging the heavy glass lens for their light.
They stand apart because they are perfectly positioned to see the dangers and the pathways that literally no one else can see.
Which brings us back to you listening. The next time you feel that unique perspective, that feeling of seeing the hidden mechanics while everyone else is just looking at the surface.
Remember, it's not a sign you're crazy, it's a sign you are awake.
So the next time you feel that glass wall go up in a crowded room, what if you stopped trying to desperately break it down and instead ask yourself, what exactly am I being positioned here to see?